That's no moon.
Clear Bay 327. We are opening the magnetic field.
Hello there, and welcome to Docking Bay 327. Today, we're going to do something a little bit differently. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Brian Thompson from the Smuggler's Room and James Culley from Rebel Base Builds to discuss our Falcon Bench builds. All three of us have made a similar bench, yet different. Each one is unique to our own space, as well as how we built them. So I thought it would be cool for us to share our struggles as well as our successes and our plans for the future. So it's more of a podcast style where the three of us just have a conversation. But there's some good stuff in it. So sit back, grab you a cold beverage, and enjoy. We three geeks of Corellian mind, a Falcon bench we each made our own kind. So much work to complete, foam, wood, and greed. Please join us as we discuss our designs. I just finished my Falcon bench that the three of us could, talk a little bit, maybe share our misery.
4 stories. 4
Right.
stories from the bench.
Like, why did we do this?
I mean, I've been texting with both of you guys and chatting throughout my entire process. And there's been a whole lot of stuff that you guys have helped me with on what not to do, etc. But yeah, just in sharing the difficulties, man, this thing's a real bear.
Oh yeah.
So
there's some real maths to this, isn't there? Apparently.
Yeah, the geometry.
Apparently, I did.
My geometry teacher from high school would be proud because I actually used some of that for once.
I'd like to say I did as well, but I just kept cutting pieces until they looked right.
That works too. That's still geometry, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Mine was all visually done in Illustrator. Like I did a top view and figured out the wedges for the seats so that I could get the bottom curve going this way. And then I just started cutting and screwing it all together. So I didn't actually use any math either, but it's there.
I used my father to build the hard part, and then I did the easy stuff. If there's easy, I'm not sure if there's anything easy about it.
It looks great, Tony. You've been sharing pictures with me, and it's awesome. Really, really cool.
Yeah. I love the color and the weathering that you got on yours. It's spot on. It looks fantastic.
Beautiful.
That's great
really
because
cool.
all I did was spray it with Plasti Dip and then did a wash over the entire thing, and
yeah,
that was it.
So the Plasti Dip on yours was kind of the tan beige color then, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a little, Brian, yours is a little bit lighter color. I know you used a spray gun with a mixed, what color did you end up using?
It's what's it called? It's called banjo beige.
Banjo beige.
I love that.
Beige banjos out there, but that's what it was called.
It's
just a latex house paint that I used the critter gun and sprayed on there.
Nice.
Yeah. I did Plasti Dip as well. But it was black. It was just whatever I had on hand at the time, I think. James, did you Plasti Dip because yours is foam as well?
Yeah. I used Plasti Dip tan, which I think is what Tony went for in the end, wasn't it? And but interestingly, I only did the pads themselves. I didn't do the back. So basically the inserts, I didn't do those. I left those actually at the minute it's still just the black foam because this isn't really finished, to be honest. But I found the tan works really well, and it was nice to weather because it was easy to apply a wash to and easy to wipe it off, but also it kept enough of it on there. It turns out quite well, I think. And so far it's holding up. I've had it for a while.
Yours, James, is you laser cut the pads, or did you laser cut those, right?
Yeah, do you know what? I started with the laser cut idea, and I don't have, well, I didn't at the time have a high powered laser. I had like one of the cheap, Chinese diode ones, which was doing the job okay, but it was taking forever. I think there's something like 40 odd pads here. So what I ended up doing, rather than doing multiple passes and waiting for them to cut all the way through, I just used it to mark out sort of, about a 5mm cut. And then I finished it with a knife, which then meant there was quite a lot of finishing to do on the edges. So lots of sanding. So, but yeah, I'm glad I did that, because it meant that every single piece was pretty much identical in shape. Right. So yeah.
And Tony, what did you use for yours?
All by hand.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you have a start? Did you have a starting point at all? Did you have a starting point in terms of any plans or anything?
Yeah. So the back, I took your Illustrator file, James, and then I measured it out to mine, because I think mine's wider.
Yeah.
Not that we're comparing sizes here.
I see where this is going.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. But so anyway, yeah, yours. So your pads, I think it's these right here, are skinnier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's because I messed up. I messed up on the original calculations, and I thought, well, it was custom. I remember making a point of saying that in the video. Right. It's custom. Doesn't matter if it's different.
No, and mine's not identical to the movie prop either. I mean, but I just kind of, spread it out, because I knew I could get 3 of these sections with the 2 Greeblies, with 2 of those others in the middle. So that's kind of what I, did it. But it was all by hand. My bandsaw broke a while back, and I hadn't been able to switch out to a new blade. So I did it. Every single bit of it was just, a razor blade and a sharpener. But I got the same, I think I used the same pads or foam material that you have, Brian. It's the TNT Cosplay.
Yeah, that they had the right thickness. So the upper pads, actually for me, the upper pads were floor mats.
That's right.
Part of it. And then I had to glue 2 of those together. And then I bought the thicker stuff from TNT. And then the pads that I'm sitting on, those were the super thick. I think they're almost 1.5 inches or 2 inches thick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know what that is in millimeters, James. You can tell us.
Well, I know these are 20 millimeters, but
there you go. Yeah. But yeah, those were the TNT as well.
Yeah, super good quality. I ended up having to use a floor mat for the last 3 mats on my seat, because I ran out. I didn't order enough. I ordered 6 sheets of the 22 millimeter, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
Well, I have to give a shout out to because I got this from my sponsor, Tig Supplies over here in the UK.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really lucky. I didn't pay a penny for any of this stuff, which is always good. But Tigers are awesome. Actually, they've been really, really good to me in the channel, and their stuff is just beautiful. Like I said in the video, it cuts just so well. And a really smooth finish. I know that most foam is fairly smooth, but this is just, I think the HD, it really shows. Sounds like I'm doing a sales pitch. I'm not. I'm just really appreciative of the fact that I wanted to give them a shout out. But yeah, it's good stuff.
For sure.
That's great. But yeah, Brian, you weren't kidding on your video when you said you didn't want to glue any more of those together, because holy cow.
And this is mine is small, because I have a small area. So you could really only fit 3 people of my size on this bench and be comfortable. I mean, skinny people, sure, they could fit more. But I had a tight corner in my basement to make this work. So how many people can you sit at each of yours?
Well, mine's probably 3 with the, if it's the kids, because mine's only a half one anyway. I think mine's only 3 seats. 3 sections. Yeah. My plan was always to build the other half. So it was always a matter of start with half of it, because that fits in my office quite nicely, and then do the other half.
So I can probably fit two of me on here. I could fit a kid on each side. That'd be about it comfortably. But yeah, it's similar in the angle that yours is, James. So it's not a full circle like you got, Brian. But
what's your plans with control panels then along the back, Tony? What are you doing with that?
so I'm going to do something similar. I'd like to do like a slanted part, like to about in the middle, and then do a straight shot over here. So I'll just kind of tweak it so that it, I can get as many rocker switches and blue and white tiles on it as I can, to get that Falcon feel. But I do have some printouts of the actual layout from the movie. Which movie, I'm not sure, but it's, that's my plan anyway.
That's nice. Yeah. I like, and Brian, I like what you did with yours in terms of those boxes that you made on the laser cutter. You've done some real special things, haven't you, with the little screens and stuff.
Yeah. There's, we've got little image screens, and then the concept behind right now, it's kind of a hot mess up above me, but we're working on getting the little Rancor terrarium put in, and then it'll be solid filled in all the way around and go to the ceiling. So that was kind of why I went with the vertical boxes rather than the angles, is I wanted as much space up top to actually create displays of whatever behind me. Yeah.
Right.
How did you find working with the foam though, guys? Because for me, it was about the fact that it's got some give to it. Obviously my frame is from foam. So because of the crazy, what's the word I'm looking for? This bench really pissed me off. Right. The crazy thing about building it is it's ever increasing circles from the front of the bench. So where the back of the seat starts, it's an even bigger circumference at the top of the bench because it slants.
Right.
So that you have to take all that into account when you're trying to do the backs of it. You see, and of course, foam is a lot more forgiving like that because you can almost stretch it or squeeze it in place. So for me, that was quite useful. It did take a lot of heating and gluing to get it to stay in place because I was obviously contorting it, but it worked well. But I know you guys, obviously, most people's approach is to use wood. I don't know what I'm thinking, but to have a wooden base, I have not experienced that yet. So what was it like working with the foam and the wood to get those angles?
You go, Brian.
It's tricky. I mean, it's like I said, I kind of made my dad do it because he thinks that way, in those shapes. The wood is challenging. I never considered doing anything other than wood for a base. It's sort of like a booth at a restaurant. So right. I was blown away when you did yours out of foam just to be able to support weight. The foam was great. I don't know what else I would have chosen. I've seen some folks do it out of different material. To me, it was the most forgiving. I'm pretty critical of myself. Some of the pads are not exactly shaped the same. I did everything by hand or with the bandsaw. The thing that bothers me the most about the foam is where the greeblies are in the seat cushions. Since I cut those and then they get formed, mine are not straight. They're curved at the top. So it pulls at these top corners, it pulls. And so you can kind of see the cuts, or it's not completely perfect. So I'm actually 3D modeling almost like a frame or a ring that'll go into this, and then the greeblies go on top of it so that it looks finished and you can't see the little cut marks, if that makes any sense at all.
Absolutely does, because that's exactly what happened with mine. Almost every single one of these has an oops, I went too far.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know what I could have done to fix that other than what you're saying. And I don't even have a 3D printer, so I would have to come up with some other way to frame it out,
Sounds like an excuse to buy a 3D printer.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think for me on the greeblies, I mean, I lied when I said I kept cutting it until it fit. I actually did model the whole thing first. I modeled it all in 3D Max. It's in the video anyway, so just checking. I modeled the whole thing, and then from there generated the Illustrator files for the actual laser. but because the 2D files were being generated from the 3D file, the greeblies were obviously identical in shape and
Right.
well, the perimeter. But yeah, because where the greebly sits, as you said, Brian, it's on the uppermost curve. The natural pull on the foam is to sort of expand towards the front and contract towards the back. So I tried to plan for that by making the edges of the greeblies tapered. But you can still see it. You can still see there is a little bit of a shadow top and bottom where the foam is still pulling apart.
Right.
Yeah, I think that having the 3D files for the actual pads and the greeblies made that process a bit easier for me. But I must admit, I spent a long time thinking about that first because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, try to find a way around this one.
Yeah, all the extra planning you did paid off, because that's certainly what bothers me the most. But it's solvable, so it's just another thing to try to create. The frame will look fine, I think. Yeah.
I think a lot of room builders, a lot of Star Wars fans see kind of the bench as, I'm not speaking for everybody, but they certainly see the bench as kind of just the most iconic prop to build or to have, because of what it is. It's where everything was discussed. It's where things, and actually, it wasn't actually in that film, in any of the films for a very long time, was it, on screen, when you think about screen time?
No.
But it was just such a different thing to see back then. The design of it, iconic, right from the minute it came onto our screens.
Yeah. It's kind of the kitchen table, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Where things come together, and so many different little iconic scenes, even in the newer films that they've made. It's that collection where everybody went to discuss what was going to happen.
Well, Brian, I'm with you, man. I did all mine by hand, all of it, right? But it's not perfect, and my greeblies are probably bigger than they need to be, but and even those are kind of messy, a little bit, but
but they're yours. You made them, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It gives me that feel every time when I walk in my room, and now it opened this whole area up. Before it was like very dark, and because I had nothing but stuff piled in here, just kind of out of the way. But now I've got the bench is just like,
Yeah.
And James, like you said, it's super iconic, probably one of the most iconic things from the films. And so
I know when I first finished mine, I remember all of my socials were full of just pictures of things on the bench. I couldn't stop myself. I was taking pictures of my Star Wars figures on the bench, or I got a new prop, but I'm going to put it on the bench, take a picture of it on the bench. You just couldn't. It's just happy with having one, and it's mine. It's different. It's not perfect, like you say. All of our benches are going to be different from the films, but they're ours, right? They're our benches.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, James, you mentioned, yours is in foam, but the frame itself, right?
What you want me to tell you about the frame?
Yeah, because you've made a couple comments about that in other conversations, like you kind of glossed over that in your video. So
I am, as you can see, I'm sitting on it right now. I am banging it with my hand. It is sound as a pound. So basically what it is I've just got lots of those, like the shape on the side, I guess the profile.
Yeah.
I just have lots of those fanning throughout the semicircle, if you like. There's just a lot of them. And then there's a honeycomb crisscross, which I didn't actually show in the video, in between each of those fins. But I think what pulls it together mainly is the three skins. So it's the framework, it's the 5mm that I put all over it as well, with the barge cement, I think you guys call it, or contact cement, and then the 20mm pads. Because to be honest, until they went on, I was doubting it. It felt a bit flimsy. Now it does need to go up against something. It needs to rest against. It is resting against a wooden frame, but nothing huge. It's not attached to it. It's not glued to it. because the idea was always for this to be modular, so I could move it around. So it's kind of being helped by the sort of the arc of the frame behind it, because it's, I guess, just by design and physics, it's holding itself in place. But there is nowhere for it to go. The foam can't bend or bow, because there's like honeycomb structure in there, which is what's doing the trick, I think. But yeah, I'm as amazed as everybody else that it holds up, but it does.
Was there a reason? I mean, what was the reasoning for choosing
There
foam?
were two reasons. I love foam. I love working with foam, as I always say on my show. And I just had so much of it as well. Tides were really good to me. They shipped me a load of stuff out. And I thought, I just kept looking at it and thinking, do you know what? I bet I could make the frame too out of that stuff, because it's really, it's really quite sturdy. So there was that. There was the fact that I just had it. I had sheets of it in my garage, and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. Secondly, and I don't mind admitting this, back then I think I was a little bit afraid to work with wood. It's not something I spend a lot of time doing. Of course, I can build frames and simple structures out of wood and things, and I have in the past, but to build something that I knew was going to involve curves, angles, right. I thought to myself, yeah, foam, you just bend it and glue it and it's done. So for me, it was kind of, I'm familiar with working with the material, and I had the material. And I also thought it would be quite a good hook for the video, because that's the thing that most people talk about. The comments are rarely about whether it looks good or bad. It's always about, you really made it out of foam. Which is good. It generates conversation, So, but even the control panels, they're all foam as well. It just works. But yeah, I know it's not probably the right way to do a bench. I think having a wooden framework first, and then obviously foam for the skin, is probably the most logical way to go, I would say. But it's holding up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a right or a wrong with it. I mean, you're proving it, because it's lasting. I've seen photos with your kids standing on it and things like that. Yeah, I think it's ingenious. It was a great way to show the versatility of materials that you can use to get the same result as like what Tony and I have doing similar construction. Because I saw, Tony, all of your original basis for it was plywood and what, 2x4 construction, or what do you got under there?
Yes, mostly plywood, and I do like a frame of like a 1x3 or 1x2s, so they're manageable and easy to cut.
Yeah, I love it. I love the diversity between all the builds and that. Yeah,
I think there's something to be said as well. I know, Brian, you say this a lot about your channel and your show. It's about motivating and inspiring people to have a go themselves. And I think what all of our benches represent, but mine particularly from this point of view only, is that you can just grab yourself some foam and make a Star Wars Falcon bench. And even I've used a laser cutter to line them, but I could have used a paper-based printer, printed out the pieces, cut, traced around them, and done the same thing. So it's all doable. And even down to the lighting, there's no Arduino in this. This is just some pre-wired, pre-flashed, flashy LEDs in this side. And over there, that's not switched on at the minute, is actually just a radio-controlled helicopter lighting kit. So it has some that sort of fade on and off, and some that flash. And for me, I'm always looking for ways to just, that you could go on Amazon and buy these things, chuck them in your build. You don't have to program anything. Obviously, I do use Arduino, etc., but I kind of like that about the simplicity of it.
Yeah. I have a little bit of regret with the amount of wiring and complexity that went into the lights, just because, like you said, I made it overcomplicated for myself. It was a good learning experience and all, but if you can find a simple solution, it really, at the end of the day, it's just, are you happy with it? Does it look the way you want it to look?
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's really no right or wrong way to do it.
So anyway, in terms of customization and adding things, or doing extra things to your bench, you guys got any plans for that? I've just put a little tweet, I think it was, or it might have been an Instagram post, to say that I'm working on the back area of this, which is the bunk. It's going to be like a smaller bunk. Obviously, it's going to be probably for Grogu. So it's going to be reminiscent of the bunk in the film, in A New Hope. which means there's quite a lot of detail going there. And I have said I am going to upgrade the lighting system, because although I've just said it's the simplicity of the auto flashes are good, I do have some ideas about having a locking system on the door inside the actual bunk, so it could open and close maybe.
Yeah.
So there's some cool sort of ideas I've got there, but God knows when they're going to surface.
Yeah,
what about you?
That's the biggest challenge. Is there's a lot above and around this that aren't finished, and it's kind of driving me crazy. It really all has just come down to time. I know on the channel we always get questions of, when are you going to finish the room, or when are you going to finish that, the bench, or whatever the case is, and it really just comes down to the amount of time it takes to do it the right way for me, because this is the second round of really doing the entire basement for me. And the first one, I was so miserable when it was done that it never was really done and it didn't look right. So I'm going really slow with all of it, and I'm absolutely okay with that, because the things I have done, I'm really happy with how it's looking.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's really about getting this completely finished in here, so at least this portion has a really solid finished look to it. I don't know if there's anything the question of whether if there's anything I'm not willing to do to it. I don't really know that there is anything that's come to mind that I haven't tried. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I have to think about it.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I mean, I'm going to do the lights, and this whole space is just the original walls, original paint color, and all of that. So I've got a whole lot of work cut out for me to finish this.
Well, at the rate Tony builds his room, his will be done long before
Yeah.
mine are finished.
Yeah, you're so right. And also, Tony, I'm betting you're, because you go all out with the room lighting, you do some amazing stuff. I bet you're going to put some kind of system in there so there's some nice shadows being cast down over the bench.
Absolutely.
Yeah, knew it. Knew you would.
Yeah.
I love that one episode that I put out on my channel about painting with lights and shadows. I mean, that it really makes all of this look so much cooler. Because again, mine is from the beginning, just kind of, there's a whole lot of mistakes, in all of it. So if it's low lighting, and it's got some cool shadows on it that you can't really see the imperfections.
Yeah.
It's all about the lighting.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to do LEDs in my Greeblies. Still.
I'd be interested to see what you do with the Greeblies, because I remember having a conversation with myself for a long time to LED the Greeblies or not. They each have a not pre-drilled, because they were 3D printed, but a pre-modeled hole for an LED. And I tried it, and it just overpowered. When I tried to film it and tried to get some nice images of it, it kind of overpowered the bench.
Yeah.
So I think if I was going to do it again, I would angle the LEDs so that they weren't like fierce at the camera, but they were kind of more lighting the insides of the Greebly.
Yeah.
But I decided to just not do it in the end. So I'd be interested to see what you do with that.
Yeah, me too. I did the same thing. I drilled holes in all of them, and I had the same result, James. It was blinding, and then it felt distracting because there's already lights above it. So yeah, I'd like to see what happens with Tony.
Yeah, cool.
You guys got me nervous now.
Actually, it sounds more like a challenge, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
Challenge accepted. I've never built a piece of furniture before in my life. And so, especially with all the curves and the angles that we were talking about, I mean, there were several times I'm like, what have I got myself into? Like, what am I? So overwhelmed. I just had to walk away from it several times and, just take a break and, okay.
Yeah.
But dude, you chewed through it so quickly. It was just all of a sudden it was there. I mean, you sent me a picture and message, and I was like, "Damn, this boy is fast."
Yeah, you were quick at building. it's shocking how much you're getting done and how quick it's going.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I
Well
mean, like I mentioned before, Brian, when I first saw your channel, I was like, holy cow, this is the most awesome thing I've ever seen in my life. Because, I have a buddy who has his own Star Wars room, but it's all collectibles and
Yeah.
toffs and glass cases and all of that. And that's cool, super cool. But when I saw your video, I was like, that takes it all to a whole other level, and I was just like, but when I watched it, I immediately thought, okay, I'm not committing to anything because I know how I am. I'll get super pumped about something for about a week, right? And then like, oh, something else shiny, so I'll go, wait, forget that. I want to do this now, I think that the timing with the, being kind of stuck in my home for over a year helped with that. But
same. I found Brian's channel during the pandemic, the first lockdown, hence the Rebel Base build was born. So
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all your fault.
You truly are the godfather, Brian.
No, I'm just a geek like the rest of you guys. Yeah, man. It's just
you were willing to put it out there first. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys both. It's been a lot of fun. I obviously see a lot of shining objects, and that's why nothing ever is truly done. But for me, it's about the journey, right? I know that's cliche or whatever, and it's said, but it's the truth. I just really enjoy making whatever it is and trying something else and doing something else. For me, it's never really been about finishing the room.
Any last thoughts or words based on your bench that you like to share?
You first, Brian.
Nothing specific, except that anybody that's watching, just give it a try. Just do it. Pick a material and go for it. See what happens.
Yeah, I would agree. Get an idea in your head and just run with it. But it's a lot of work. Everything they say about building a bench is true. All of it.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard work. But it pays off in the end. It
does, but you really have to hang in there. I can't tell you how many Pinterest things pop up now for like, booth for restaurants and cafes. Like, because I was this close to trying to go find one, just get a curved bench frame and then rip off the front of it and then put, the pads and everything on it. But I never could find anything local that was reasonable. Those things are expensive, and now I know why.
But you had much more fun building your own, right?
I did.
But no, it looks really good. You've done a fab job, and I love the finish you've got on there. The paint and the weathering. It just looks great. And when you see a full on picture of it, obviously you're sitting on it now, the close up, but the full on, it's just so effective.
Yeah,
that was the first thing I noticed when I thought that looks great. Movie ready. So yeah, well done, man. It's really good.
Yeah, fantastic, buddy.
Thanks, guys. You kept me motivated, and I truly appreciate your all's friendship. Can't believe that the three of us are literally in 3 different time zones and 2 different continents, and we're able to just geek out together. It's really cool.
So there you go. A nice conversation between 3 friends, 3 makers, with 3 different styles of the Falcon Bench that we've all made and are proudly displaying in our Star Wars rooms. Hope you've enjoyed this special edition. I'm really looking forward to all of the projects that I have planned for the new year, and I'll be filming all of it and sharing it with you guys throughout 2022. So I hope everyone has a safe and happy new year. And until next year, build with what you know and figure out the rest.
We 3 geeks of
Culley mind, a Falcon bench we each made our own kind. So much work to complete, foam, wood, and Greeley's join us as we discuss our designs.